Hi, I'm Dan Gable with Shore Murphy and Associates of Casey, and this is another episode of Big Agent in the Small Town. Today I want to talk about the insurance coverages that are important if you're a plumbing contractor. So first of all, the coverage that's most likely the most important is general liability. And general liability is going to cover claims of bodily injury or property damage due to issues while you're doing the job or from completed operations after the fact. So an example of a general liability claim would be, let's say you do a plumbing job and somehow the job is done incorrectly and a pipe breaks and there's extensive water damage to the building where the work was done. That property damage to the building would be covered under general liability. So the next coverage is professional liability. So in that general liability example that I mentioned that the damage resulting from the error in the work is covered under general liability. But any defects in your work itself are excluded under general liability under what's called the your work exclusion. And a way to pick up coverage for that is professional liability. So an example of professional liability would be, let's say that you were doing a plumbing job for a brand new restaurant that was opening up. And somehow there was an error in your plumbing installation and everything was going to have to be redone and the restaurant wasn't going to be able to open for 2 weeks. So there's going to be 2 weeks of lost income, extra expenses. That kind of claim would be excluded on general liability. Those are the things that can be picked up by professional liability. That's why that's an important coverage. Another coverage, or just specifically for plumbing contractors, I recommend considering that's often overlooked is pollution liability. So let's go to that general liability example with the broken water pipe. Let's say instead of something that causes a major leak where the building owner knows right away, that you've made an error where it's a slow leak that just accumulates over time and the building owner doesn't know until a mold problem has happened due to this leak. Most general liability policies are going to exclude coverage for mold specifically or have an exclusion for pollutants. So if you have this pollution liability in place, that can help pick up that gap in the general liability as well too. Next coverage that can be really important is what's called inland marine coverage. And typically for plumbers, there are two different areas where this can be really beneficial. The first would be for any tools or equipment that you own. And inland marine coverage covers those tools and equipment at your location, in transit, or on a job site, or anywhere in between. So you want that coverage for your tools and equipment on the inland marine portion. Also, installation coverage or an installation floater is another important coverage on inland marine. So let's say that you had a products to install as part of a job. So let's just say you had a toilet you're going to be installing for your part of a bathroom remodel if you're a plumbing contractor. Or that installation coverage would cover that equipment you're installing, again, at your location, in transit to the job site, or at the job site if it's damaged. So that can be really important as well too. Next, commercial property is important if you own a building for your business, or if you rent a building where you have business personal property. You want those exposures to be covered with commercial property coverage. Next is commercial auto. That's going to cover liability if you're in an auto accident, any company vehicles that's your fault, for bodily injury and property damage, and then also physical damage coverage if there's any damage to the vehicles themselves too. Work comp is also a really important coverage. What that is, it's based on state statute, and if you have any employees who are injured while on the job, that's going to pay for things like medical, lost wages. So that's really important because any incidents like that can quickly add up. So that coverage is vital for your business as well too. And lastly is a commercial umbrella. And what a commercial umbrella does is it adds an extra liability limit over your existing policies. So it add an additional layer of liability. Normally, $1 million is a starting point over your general liability, your employer's liability on your workers' comp, and your commercial auto. A couple of coverages I won't go into detail here, but I do have other videos on as well too. Our employment practices liability and cyber insurance. Those are two things where you may have exposures as well too. So I recommend watching those videos. If you have any questions about insurance for your plumbing company and would like to reach out, please call or text me at 217-932-2267 or by email to Dan, D-A-N, at shoremurphycasey, SHOREMURPHYCASEY.com. Thank you.